Welcome back to the Elle-Sera podcast. And today I'm joined by Dr. Chloe Bradbury. I'm going to let her do her amazing credentials because otherwise we'll be here all day. Yeah. Chloe, nice to see you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So tell the audience who you are and what you do.
I'm Dr. Chloe Bradbury. I'm a medical doctor by background. I've now gone down a different route that involves a medical aesthetics clinic and also being head of medical affairs at a nutraceutical company.
Wonderful, which is actually how we'd met, which is great. So one of the most interesting things I see in the supplement industry at the moment is kind of this move towards a new technology called liposomal or liposomes. And I've seen this terminology kind of being chucked around a little bit more so lately. So I wanted to get you on to try and explain to the audience exactly what liposomes are.
Okay, so liposomes are a really exciting, pioneering element of the nutraceutical space, but actually they've been kicking around for a while in medical terms. And like all good things in either nutraceuticals or aesthetics, they're sort of shifting their way across to become something that we can all apply in our day-to-day health. Essentially, and I must make a disclaimer, I'm not a sort of biological scientist. I am very much a medical doctor. So my understanding is sort of the peg down from my boss, Professor Najla. But essentially, it involves putting the active ingredient, whatever that is, so magnesium, for example, and surrounding it with things called phospholipids, which is just a really fancy name for essentially some fatty acids.
Okay. Almost like a fat jacket.
It's a fat jacket. Absolutely. It's like the sumo wrestler approach.
Yeah, absolutely. So why are liposomes so exciting and what's so great about them?
Okay, so liposomes are exciting, particularly in the nutraceutical space, but in general in the drug world, because they allow more of the active ingredient to reach more of its end target. So traditionally, there's been a problem with the bioavailability of all supplementation. If we go back to basics, something that's delivered IV is considered to have 100% bioavailability. It's straight in, it's into your system. It doesn't go through any sort of processes within the gut or within the liver, and it just does what it needs to do.
And an IV, if anyone doesn't know what it is, that's kind of the nutrient, getting with a cannula straight into the bloodstream.
Yeah, exactly. So into a vein for IV. Please pick me up on doctor terminology. And then you also have things like your intramuscular injections, like flu jabs, et cetera, subcut, which are sort of diabetes when we've got a really fine needle. And then you've got oral. And some things work really well with oral. Some things we want to be oral because we want them to go through the sort of gut bowel system. But particularly with nutraceuticals, and by that I mean sort of vitamins, minerals, there's been an issue that it would be fantastic to be able to supplement on top of the things that we require from our food, but taking them orally hasn't necessarily delivered. So what sometimes we end up with is just really expensive because it's bypass. It either gets degraded in the gut into something that we're not going to absorb anyway, or it comes straight out of the system, or it goes through the liver and gets degraded that way and comes out in our excretions. So by coating it in our fat coat,
our liposomes,
our fat jacket, we protect it from that gut breakdown, and we protect it. Some will still get degraded, some will still get degraded if it's going through the liver as what's called first pass metabolism, but you will end up with more of your active ingredient at the end point, so into the cells.
Okay, so the bioavailability and basically the absorption rate. And can you put anything in a liposomal?
It's actually, so in terms of, it's what we call a drug delivery system. And there are many thousands of them. That's what companies are sort of research and developing all the time to see what's best. It's actually a really flexible one, which is why they're great. So you can put different things with different polarities, which just means essentially a charge within the liposome, because they sort of work. They have a sort of positive and negative end, so they're really flexible without going into really boring scientific stuff. They're generally really good. There are a couple of things that really don't play that nicely with them, but on the most part,
what would they be?
Things like calcium don't necessarily sit happily within them, but as we're developing the technology and we're developing dry liposomes, we can incorporate more and more into them. So it's really exciting.
That was my other question, actually. So you mentioned dry liposomes there. So because I've seen liposomes in a powder form, like in capsules.
Yeah.
And then I've seen obviously lots of liquids. And I would imagine in my head liposomes to be liquids all the time. But then you see lots of, are they freeze dried? So it started off life as a liquid, gets freeze dried, broken down.
Yeah.
Does that still act the same or does it degrade it?
Yes. Although I would add a note of caution in at this point. We have the company I work for, we have we do a lot of R&D and we do a lot of QC stuff, and we quite often get a competitor's product sent to us.
For anybody who doesn't know what QC is, it's quality control.
Yes, sorry. I'm going to do this the whole time.
It's absolutely fine.
So we like to test, not because we love people being in the liposomal space in a valid way. Like, we really like the noise around liposomes. We're not one of those companies that is sort of up there and kicking everyone else off the ladder. We'd like other people to be up there with us because we think it's a really exciting space and a benefit to the people taking supplements. But I would say that quite a lot of the supplements that we test, whether they're liquid or dry, are either not truly liposomal. So some of them just have lipids in, but the active isn't sort of encapsulated by it. And some of them, shockingly, don't have any lipid in, which is like the goal of it is unbelievable.
Absolutely. And I can tell you that some of these are very big, reputable companies. Like, shock to me, actually, when you told me some of them. And I was like, oh my God, I thought they were a great company. Never buying them again. So why is that?
We have very little regulation in the nutraceutical space in the UK at the moment. So essentially anyone could put anything in a capsule, label it
as a liposome, and it's not had to
or label it even as a active ingredient and put it out on the market and sell it, and people wouldn't know if they were taking a sort of capsule of chalk. Because the only way at the moment in the UK, it's different in different countries who have much more stringent process, is if we, so for example, a competitor who I won't name, but who was claiming to be liposomal, we did the testing, they were not liposomal, and we went to the Advertising Standards Agency and said, look, this is a lie, and they told them to stop advertising it as that. The problem is that we sit within, if you're in the nutraceutical space, you're within the sort of food space, so there's much less stringent controls for coming to market.
Okay. Do you think, sometimes I have to give them the benefit of the doubt. And I think maybe the people who are running these businesses are genuinely sold to when they're going to their manufacturer. No, this is a liposome. One company springing to mind right now. And they believe it.
Yeah.
And they look like a credible company. They look like a credible lab. This isn't a lab that's abroad, by the way. They look like a credible company. These two people are credible. Do they have the technological background in this? Probably not. But you've got to take people on face value at these manufacturers to say, no, we've tested it. We know it's great. And maybe, could this happen? Maybe when they began the process, it was a true liposome. And then as it sat on its shelf life, does it degrade over time? Yeah,
I think there's 2 points to be made. One is that I'm sure that some companies, as you said, take it at face value that manufacturing plant is going to make them what they've asked them to do, which is a liposomal formulation. It really shouldn't be for the company to do the testing or quality control, et cetera, et cetera. Some of it obviously remains their responsibility, but these are, big public-facing companies. They should be responsible for giving what is advertised. And some of them, I'm not quite sure how they get away with it, but I think there is an innocent party on the side of the customer. And quite often we will write to the customer and say, did you know that your product is not liposomal? Or at least it's subpar. So that brings us on to the second point. Yes, you can get some degradation of the liposomes, particularly if there's poor stability there. So all of our products go through a rigorous stability testing, which takes a long time, months. And we test them at the beginning when it's all tickety-boo, straight out of the production line, and then we test them 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line. They're continually tested so that we know how stable our liposomes are and also how the actives are sitting. And for things like microbial, which I presume other people are doing. But it's really important from that aspect. Choose your manufacturer wisely is my caveat.
Well, this is the thing, you just don't know. And I know a company springing to mind now, and I've even marked their card and said, I'll just, between me and you, I don't think they're the best manufacturer. So if you want to take a look, but they've gone all in on it. But there's nothing I can say, do you know what I mean? I'm just fair enough, I tried to tell you. But yeah, so but I think genuinely they are innocent. These people, they're doing the best they can. They're trying to do their due diligence. And again, then you've got, you're farming it out to customers and they're spending their good hard-earned cash. I mean, people buy into a lot of marketing. Otherwise, we wouldn't be, there wouldn't be so big influx of gummies. Yes. I mean, I always say gummies are for dummies. What's your opinion on them?
I think there's very minimal active ingredient in a gummy. I understand why people like them. And I also truly understand why people choose them for kids. Because, my God, that's easy to get into a child, right? Because it looks like a sweet. Same for adults.
But there's nothing in it, surely.
No, I think
the material that it's made of, everything can evaporate out of it. Like the nutrient doesn't stay active or stable in there at all.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't personally, I don't have sort of data in front of me as to whether there's a difference company to company, and there may well be. There also may be a difference vitamin to vitamin, because some things will sit more happily like that than others. My general feeling is that they have a poor amount of the substance. You're getting very, very little in, usually with some sort of glucose along the way. So it's not an ideal way. I wouldn't advocate taking gummies, but if a gummy company wants to come to me and say, no, have a look, we've got all of this, please do, because I'm happy to be educated.
Well, every time there's third-party testing on a gummy, they come out famously bad on every level. Yeah. Apologies for interrupting this podcast, but I need to ask a favour. If you're enjoying this podcast so far, then please hit that subscribe button right now. I'll be straight up and honest that I want to see this podcast grow and flourish into something that I'm really proud of. And the only way that I can do that is with your help. So if you've ever learned anything useful from these conversations, then please return the favour by liking, rating, subscribing, and maybe even sharing it with your friends. Thanks very much. Let's get back to the episode. But speaking of children's supplements, that's something I'm very vocal about and something I talk about on my Instagram page a lot. And I'm sure all the mums listening to and dads listening to this will be conscious of what they're giving their children. And again, they're seeing Spider-Man on the front of, Well Kid or whatever and thinking, oh, great, little multivitamin for our Jimmy. So, but actually, your company's just produced a multivitamin for children. Grace has tried it. She loves it. So do you want to talk to me about that, the ingredients in that and why it's...
Yeah, so we've got a sort of standard assortment of ingredients. We've got the important ones, all the Vit Bs, Vit C, Vit D, etc., iron. But yes, we knew that we had to manufacture something that we were sort of balancing it between, is it going to be really effective, which is sort of our MO. We do not produce something that is not going to have a health benefit.
Yeah, this is your ethos. This is number one core culture to your business is is this going to perform?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And especially as a doctor, I feel like there's a responsibility upon me that my face is not associated with something that's ineffective.
Yeah.
Or, I would never want my patients in any respect of my career to have paid out good money for something that doesn't work. Like, we all know that times are tough. People are trying to make sort of cost cuts. I think it's really important. I think it's just so unethical to produce something, particularly for children, that is just not going to provide anything that they need, or it's going to provide it in an amount that's really minimal. So optimizing drug delivery for kids is really important. So that's what we've done. We haven't tried to make it taste. I think it actually does taste really nice. My two take it into sort of bubblegum flavour.
Yeah, it's like a strawberry bubblegum flavour. Yeah, I put it in Grace's Greek yogurt, mix it in, and she gets like all the toppings on and whatever. Or I can't really get away with it in Weetabix. I put like omega-3 in that.
Yeah.
Her stuff is like loaded.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, if you're getting omega-3 into a child, then you're doing, doing a good job because that's a difficult one. But yeah, it's exciting. And I certainly I don't want to do anyone else down. I'm pleased if people are supplementing their children. It's actually really important to supplement children as they're growing. There's lots of things that they can become deficient in very quickly. So I wouldn't discourage that, but I would just encourage consumers to take more time in what they're choosing. Don't trust that what you see on the shelf or what is implied from the shelf is actually what you're going to be getting in terms of product.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is difficult to know because you've got so many influencers who are saying, oh, I give this to I see it with like hair supplements all the time. And I'm like, Christ, I was going to do nothing. And they've got beautiful hair anyway. They've got, genetically beautiful freaking hair. And now they're advertising hair supplements. And I'm like, yeah, great. Or they've got loads of extensions in is the other one, is my bugbear. And they're showing them beautiful glossy hair and then saying that it's the result of this supplement. And I'm a bit like that with kids too, because then I see these like celebrity mums saying this is what they give to their such and such. It's got beautiful packaging and all the rest of it. And they're not asking these right questions. I can tell you that my number one question of anyone is, hi Alyssa, I know you don't talk shit, but which is the best supplement to give my kids? And I actually love that people go, I know you don't talk shit.
Yeah.
So I try not to. And that's when I was really excited when you said, we've got a children's supplement out. Because I was like, brilliant. Because I've been looking for one for Grace for ages. And I've been given her ones that even I knew weren't that good. And I'm like, well, I can't find anything better really. Yeah. Unless I start low dosing her some of mine.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what I do with the omega-3. Yeah. There's 1,000 milligrams of a really nice clean omega-3. Which is like a really important one. But I was giving her a multivit. I was giving her, DHA was my biggest one. And I took loads of that in pregnancy. Yeah. Why do you think that is so important for children?
Well, I think it's important for everyone.
Yeah.
Traditionally, like we know, and actually publicly, there's actually been quite a good advertising campaign about fish oils. I think like half of that job has been done from decades ago. I mean, our grannies knew that cod liver oil was good for kids, right? You'd hold their nose, you'd shove it down their throat. Yeah. And that is based in science. Yeah. So in omega-3 you have like DHA and EPA. DHA traditionally associated with brain development and eye function. Really important for kids. Obviously, the development, all of those processes are developing as they grow. This sort of cell turnover is massive. They're constantly expanding. They're dividing and replicating, and it's a really busy. That's why kids need all these things in a sort of multitude. But for adults, maintaining that because we don't have. Sadly, we don't have neuroplasticity, which I know is a big long term. I'll explain it. The easiest way to think about it is if you had a stroke, we don't get our full function back.
Right.
So if we kill off our brain cells, there's nothing we can do about it. We can learn to become more functional with what we are left with, but we are not going to redevelop those brain cells, which is a shame because that would be amazing. And if you are interested in that sort of thing, look at the naked mole rat because it can actually do it.
Right, wow.
So they're studying it. But we can't, so we need to be protective of those things, right? They're really precious. So taking THA is just a good idea on a regular basis. And adding an EPA in combination is then protective more cardiovascularly, so heart function, things like that.
I mean, I take quite a high dose. I take like 2,000 milligrams a day. Again, because every study I read said that was kind of the dose you need for the neurological benefits.
Yeah.
And anything kind of under that was just like not worth it. And then again, then there's going to be different levels of quality. You've got your cod liver oils, most of them quite synthetic.
I would say as a doctor that traditionally we have felt that there is a better uptake from food sources than from supplement sources. So with things like fish oils, if it gets a mackerel.
Yeah,
but it's really straight.
Absolutely, diet is key.
Yeah, and you can't just supplement your way out of a crappy diet.
No, you can't. I always say this to people. I'm like, supplements are the cherry on top. Get your foundations right. Get your diet right. Stop eating processed junk. Try and cook from scratch. All those things.
Yeah.
Exercise, move your body, de-stress, sunlight. Literally hydrate. All these things, and then bang. What's optimizing now? Those supplements.
Yeah.
So then you can optimize on top of those.
And they'll work better alongside that. Otherwise they're fighting against the things that you're intaking via food. I'm not saying don't go and have a pizza. I really am not saying that. But I'm saying on a day-to-day basis, as it's really simple. I mean, fad diets really irritate me. I have a qualification in medical nutrition, just going off on a tangent, but the prettier your plate, the better in essence. So if you've got lovely, you look at mackerel, it's a beautiful fish.
Yeah.
And, get it for, ethically sourced. I don't want us to sort of fish all the mackerel out of the sea, but, do go to the fishmongers, ask them what oily fish they've got in, ask them where they've sourced it from, get them to gut it and scale it and sort it out for you, and then fry it up with some seasonal veg, and really you are onto a winner.
Yeah.
I'm not against carbs. Our brain runs off glucose. It prefers glucose as our energy source. So keto is not ideal in terms of brain function. So please don't be scared of incorporating brown rice, et cetera, but a slow carbohydrate, something that's going to not
sweet
spike
potato.
your GI. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's my go-to: fish, greens, sweet potato.
Perfect. Yeah. And just do that. No one is perfect. Have an Indian on a Friday night. Don't feel bad about it, but try and integrate, steady changes into your life and into your family's life. And I know food is expensive, so buy the things that are discounted, or go at the end of the day, or go to your local farm to buy your eggs, go to your fishmonger, go to your butchers, ask them what's on special offer, ask them what's left over, and try and do it that way. Really difficult in the busy life.
I'm just literally thinking, I need to quit work. Literally. And I literally say this all the time. I was like, no, I want to be a kept woman. I just want to, what I mean? Sometimes,
it would be nice.
Yeah, I have those days. I'm like, I'm just ready to be a kept woman now, and just go to the farmer's market and go and buy some organic grass-fed beef from the bloody butcher and sit there and make the house look pretty.
It doesn't have to be expensive. Don't go to the farmer's market and buy the pretty stuff. If there was one piece of advice I could give to my patients when they're starting out on a sort of medical nutrition path, is buy yourself a slow cooker and buy lean meat. Yeah. So actually pork tenderloin is quite expensive these days, but buy a slow cook cut of meat, buy braising beef and slow cook that and just chuck it in.
Yeah.
Chuck it in at the beginning of the day, go to work, come home and it's ready. And do all your veg in there if you want to. Like that's absolutely fine. I'm not saying, some of the things at farmers market are beyond belief and the markup is huge. But
depends where you're going, you know.
Or get hens like me. Love my hens.
I would love hens.
And just have your eggs at home.
I would love that. Yeah. I think Grace would love that too, my little girl. She would absolutely be buzzing with that.
They are the best thing ever.
I know. I just know I'd be left to keep them. Because there's nobody else in the freaking house that would do it. So then I'd be left dealing with these.
You'd be cleaning them out on a Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we spoke about liposomes and what they are. So it's no great secret. I've mentioned it a couple of times now. I'm bringing out a magnesium, liposomal magnesium. And I've gone for a glycinate because that's one of the most bioavailable ones already. Yeah. And doesn't compete for calcium, I believe, in the body. So, and then we're wrapping it in liposomes, which is going to be the bioavailability of this is going to be like through the roof. But can you tell me, Chloe, like some of the benefits of magnesium?
Yes. So if I was saying to someone that was starting out, and this is not just, it's fortuitous that you happen to be releasing one, but actually I would always say, if you're starting out on a sort of supplement path or you just started to get interested in it, or you want to do something beneficial for your health, A, find a good one, B, start with magnesium. It's so abundant in our body. I mean, it's everywhere. It's so prolific in all our cell processes and our cell metabolism. It's everywhere. Our body uses it all the time. And quite often, even if we're not, even if it's not depleted, we are quite often low in magnesium. So it may not be something that's picked up, for example, in that, we have a sort of strict criteria of when we're doing blood tests as doctors. But even sitting at the low end of some things can sometimes impact us in ways that we sort of hadn't anticipated. It's really helpful just in terms of like bones, skin, all of that sort of all of our sort of basic structure. Magnesium is really important. And it's also really helpful in terms of sleep regulation. I am not great at sleeping. I tend to turn things over. That is. No, especially women. Yeah. It's you get into bed and you go, oh my God. Like, everything comes all at once.
Do you know what? Last night I got into bed. Kelly's still talking to me about the post at 11:30. I went, you know what? It's 11:30, Kelly. I'm just like, I'll do those replacements tomorrow. Like, I don't want to think about that now. And then I double dropped 2 magnesium. Then I had a little bit of spray. And I was just like, right, okay, I'm going to sleep. And I was just like knocked out.
Yeah. So people find it really helpful from that point of view. It can help with bowel regulation. It's not the other reason you go for bisglycinate is because we don't want to have a laxative, which magnesium sulfate is, which is helpful in its own way, but it can still help. And then empirically, which means when people tell me when people report back to me, so it's not necessarily data collection, but people say it's really been helpful for sort of mental health and balancing, can be helpful in treating depression, things like that. I am not saying stop your antidepressants, go and buy a magnesium. I'm saying take a more holistic approach to these things.
And actually, famously, every time they test soils in the UK, it's always depleted of magnesium and they need to be putting it back in. So you could have the best diet in the world. Like we've just said, it starts with diet, but even then you're not getting enough magnesium that you need anyway. So I would definitely say
and really importantly, people love a water filter.
Yeah.
And if it actually demineralizes your water.
Really?
So I can completely understand, in this world of microplastics and chemicals that we don't want sitting in the water. And also just in terms of softening it before it comes in and ruins our kitchen stuff or our washing machines or whatever. Yeah. But there is something to be said for hard water in that it does contain minerals, and one of those is magnesium. So we actually take it out of it.
Right.
So if you do have one of those, it's useful to supplement with it.
Right. That's very interesting. Okay, well, we've come to the end of the podcast today. So thank you so much, Chloe, for coming in. That was brilliant. I'm going to tell everybody to go and get the kids supplement because I think it's wonderful. I'm going to do I'll put links in the show notes. And yeah, when the magnesium comes out, I'm sure everybody will know about it. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.